Hello, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. We're going to have a very interesting podcast today, and I want to just right up front tell you how much I appreciate you joining me, and I want to thank you for that privilege. I got an email from somebody that was too long to answer in my email podcast, but I want to read it to you, and we're going to address it today. Comes from Kurt C. Kurt C says this: Dear Hondo, I've never emailed me you before, but I met you once. I'll explain that in a moment. My grandfather went to Michigan State to play football back when they were the only school in America breaking the color barrier and won multiple national titles with Duffy Doherty. Go Green. I met you once at a reunion when you were the MC of the event. That's how I knew you were friends with Baba Pisa, Bubba Smith, and so many other great legends from others like Clinton and others in that era. I, however, never attended Michigan State. I live here in California and have been a lifelong Raider fan. So when you left covering Michigan State to cover my beloved Raiders, I was thrilled and excited to have you on the beat. Several years ago, Michigan State was going through very difficult times prior to the arrival of Mark D'Antonio. And I'll never forget hearing a talk you gave to Spartan Nation, uh, a word of caution. I'm just wondering if you were to speak to the entirety of Raider Nation today, what words of wisdom would you give them? I know that you're not a fan, but I'll never forget how Michigan State fans literally around the world rallied to what you said. And I wondered what you would say to Raider fans today. Thanks, Kurt C. First of all, Kurt, I don't remember that, but I met a lot of people, so I appreciate you saying hi and reminding me, and thank you for your support, whether it was at Michigan State or covering the Raiders. There is a word of caution that I would give Raider Nation, and I want to go back and put Raider Nation in perspective. You know, there's an old country western song that says, "She don't know she's beautiful." And it's a story about a girl who's very attractive, but she's not she doesn't know it. She doesn't walk around impressed with herself. We've all met men or women impressed with who they are, either the money they have, their looks, whatever. And she's just humble, but she has no idea how beautiful that she is. I want to go back and say this. Raider Nation needs to look into the past and remember who they are. I had multiple opportunities to cover NFL teams. I was not willing to leave my home state to go cover anybody. And when the opportunity arose, I was absolutely jumped at the chance to cover the Raiders. This is a legacy franchise. This is not a NFL team. This is a legacy team. There are certain teams in the NFL, you may love or hate them, but the reality is they're a legacy team. Pittsburgh Steelers, legacy team. Dallas Cowboys, legacy team. Las Vegas Raiders, legacy team. There are a handful. You could probably make an argument for 6. I would probably say 5. But then there are teams that transcend that. So let me give you a couple of examples. The New York Yankees, whether you love them or hate them, is a legacy team. They're bigger than the game of baseball. Yes, they're a legacy team within MLB, but they're bigger than a legacy team. I think there's only one other team in Major League Baseball that can approach them, and I still don't think they're a legacy MLB team. That's the Dodgers, but they're not bigger than the game like the Yankees are. Okay. If you go over to the NHL and hockey, there are a couple of franchises, the Toronto Maple Leafs. When you look at Toronto in hockey, they're bigger. They're a legacy team in the NHL. There are a few legacy teams, but they're bigger than the NHL. They don't win, but they're bigger. in the NBA. It's the Celtics and the Lakers. Now, there are a couple other legacy teams. I think you could put the Knickerbockers in there. But the Lakers, unlike the Celtics, are bigger than the NBA. They're bigger. And so as you look at the NFL, there are several teams that there, again, you could make a case for six. I think there are five legacy teams, but there are really the Raiders and probably the Cowboys are two teams bigger than the league. Now, let me explain to you why I think the Raiders are a legacy team, because bigger than a legacy team. They're bigger than the game of football. Because invariably there'll be some moron who will say Hondo's just saying that to placate to Raider fans, and I'm not. Al Davis did a few things, not one or two. He did several things that made the Raiders bigger than the league and changed professional sports. Okay. He didn't need a Rooney rule. He was the Rooney rule. And okay, great. That's great. You want to interview people of color. Okay, great. We have to make you. Well, it meant something because Al didn't have to be made to do it. There are some people fathers who lead their children out of fear, and then some that lead out of influence. You want to be a person that leads out of influence. And Al Davis didn't have to be threatened. You're going to lose draft picks if you don't interview minorities. Shut up. I never needed the rule. They transcended that. Just like a lot of people don't remember this, but in the late 50s and early 60s, Michigan State was the first school to break a color barrier. That's why they won so many national titles. I remember Bubba Smith, who was a great friend of mine. Many of you probably only knew him as an actor, who was a tremendous football player and won national titles at Michigan State. A great friend, not a good friend. Telling me, he goes, as a kid, it was a dream to go to Michigan State because I could look on the field and see people that looked like me when others wouldn't even recruit them. And anyways, Al Davis was one of those guys. Al Davis changed the game, how people spent. He changed the game as one of the first professional owners that really took to heart and embraced his fan base. That's why you find Raider fans, they are, again, the legacy teams have loyalty. I'm not trying to say only the Raiders, but they're bigger than that. There are people around the world who don't even really know American football, but know the Raiders. If you ask people, I'll give you an example. Last year I was in Israel, and we're there or whatever, and invariably you talk to people, and met this family from Denmark, and we're visiting with them. We're on a boat on the Sea of Galilee, and I met these people from Denmark, and why I am on this boat on the Sea of Galilee, and we're going across, and so we're talking about what they do, and I tell him I'm a beat writer covering the National Football League, and he goes, "Oh," and we chatted for a couple minutes, and he said, "What team?" And I said, "The Raiders." He goes, "Al Davis." I said, "Yeah," and I go, "Oh man," I said, "Who's your favorite Raider?" "Oh, I don't know." "What?" "Oh, I don't know." He goes, "I love Al Davis." Like, all right, what do you love about Al Davis? "Oh man, he sued the league, and I love the way he just kind of did things, and the way he loved his." It was phenomenal. And Al Davis was bigger than the NFL. And so other professional franchises literally around the world took notice of what he did. Paid close attention to what he did. He changed other leagues. He goes and becomes a commissioner, forces the merger. And then he goes and again, Flores, Madden, Plunkett, Jim Otto. I mean, Lester. I mean, you can go on. Howie. I mean, I'm going to stop naming names. You're going to leave somebody out. He won. He won. He won. He won. Now, did the team decline as he aged? Yes. But it doesn't change who you are. And so I think sometimes Raider Nation gets so pitted between, oh, they're not old school Raider. Now, listen, I'm not a fan. So you may say Hondo has no right to give these opinions. Okay, fine. Then don't listen. But sometimes I see the old school Raider Nation. And let me tell you, there's a term the kids use today called OGs, and they are the OGs. If you're old enough that you lived through the Super Bowls and you've struggled through the last 20 years, you've earned your right to say to a young kid, hey, come on now, settle down a little bit. But I think sometimes Raider Nation has forgotten who you are. You're not bridesmaids. You're the freaking Raiders. It's who you are. It's your destiny. It's what you are. It is unconscionable for this fan base to have struggled the way it has in this franchise the last 20 years. That's not Raider football. That's why I think there has to be a lot of joy. But let's go back and just use Derek Carr. It divided the nation. I mean, they were ripping on each other. Hey, if you don't like Derek Carr, good. I consider Derek a friend. I think he's a wonderful man. I have tremendous respect for Derek Carr, the human being. Okay. I think he was a quarterback that took a ton of criticism. That was unfair from one side. And then the other side, I thought he took adulation that on the field he had not earned. And you may say, well, what do you mean by that? There is certain amounts of respect that comes with winning big. Okay, he didn't win that. Now, was a lot of that the franchise's fault? Sure. But a lot was his too. It was both. And so there was one group, if you criticize Derek, you're a hater, you're whatever. And another group, no matter what Derek did, if he threw 5 touchdown passes, well, it was because his receivers are so good, Carr sucked, and got divided. You saw it when Josh McDaniels gets hired. Division. You saw it with Antonio Pierce. One group wanted him, one group didn't. And then all of last year, I mean, it was vitriolic. And here's the word of advice that I would give, a word of caution to Raider Nation. There may be better coaches than Pete Carroll. Okay. I think he's a Hall of Famer. I think he was a perfect fit for this job. If you would have said to me, based on the candidates that were available, you couldn't go hire somebody that's already coaching another team. Who do you want to hire to run the Raiders? I would have picked Pete Carroll. I think this was a great hire. If Pete goes and fails, you can absolutely bookmark that I said I thought this was a great hire. I think it was a great hire. Okay. You finally have ownership through general manager in line, meaning Spytek gets hired, then they hire Pete Carroll. You've got unity between Spytek and Carroll. You got a quarterback that the coach wanted and believed in, and there isn't tension. When Gruden was here, Gruden was pro Derek, but above Gruden. And I'm not saying, remember, Mayock wasn't above Gruden, but above Gruden was probably not as many people sold on Derek. You now have unanimity. This franchise in my 6 years, and quite frankly, I can tell you over a large part of the last 20, has never been aligned the way it is right now. I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. I think they'll get to 9 wins, but I don't think they're a Super Bowl team. But let's say there's a massive couple of injuries. We're not talking about little ones, massive ones. Where you lose a Malcolm in the beginning, like they did last year, and another one. I mean, where they were just snake bit. You can't turn on each other. You're Raider Nation. My dad used to tell my brothers and sisters and I, inside this house, we can disagree, but outside this house, we're family. And the perception, I'm not saying it's reality, but the perception of Raider fan. Now, let me tell you, it used to be during the heydays in Oakland. Oh man, that's a thuggy fan base, which completely not true. The black hole is, I'm sure there's some thugs in the black hole, but there's also doctors and lawyers and bricklayers and landscapers. And when I say bricklayers, masons, I bet there's a butcher. I'm sure there's a motorcycle rider. I'm sure there's a race car driver, a truck driver. There's rednecks and there's city folk. There's black, white, and brown and yellow and red. There's men and women. There's Republicans, Democrats, independents, communists, socialists, atheists, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists. The Raider Nation is the sum of its part. But the reputation used to be because of the costumes and the intimidation, and the quarterback must go down and he must go down hard. I know that's a horrible example. But because of that reputation, they were thuggy, but man, they were the Raiders. I remember dear people in my life who were season ticket holders in San Diego that refused to go to the stadium when the Raiders came. Wouldn't go, sold their tickets. I remember saying to them one time, were they bad fans? Oh, thugs. Whoa, wait a minute. Did anything ever really happen? No. So they got their way. They intimidated you. You sold your tickets. They even go to your home stadium. Pretty funny. And now, those people live in Vegas. So when the Raiders moved here, now they're Raider fans and they realize, wow, it is the spirit of the group. It's like if your kid dresses up for a costume party, like whatever, a bear, it doesn't mean he's going to rip your face off. And so Raider Nation, then now it is morphed from that into, oh man, they fight with each other. I talked at the NFL owners meetings, not saying it was an owner, it was an executive. He said to me, man, how do you like covering that team? That fan base is just nuts. They hate everybody, including themselves. I said, no, there's a lot like that, but it's not all. I'm going to challenge you. Okay. And I don't work for the team. You don't have to do this. I could care less. But this person asked if there's a word of caution. Pete Carroll's going to need some time to turn this. Tom Brady, Pete Carroll, John Spytek. They've got to change 20 years to where the expectations are this team's in the playoffs every year. This is not a completed roster. It's a good roster. It's better than last year's. It's good. It's a 9-win team roster. It's not a finished product. It ain't the Eagles. Quite frankly, I don't even think it's the Chargers. I think the Chargers are a little bit better. Not a lot, but a little bit. I still think the Raiders will do better than the Chargers this year for reasons I'll get into later. I think they're better than Denver, but there are lots of teams in the AFC that I don't think they're better than. It's going to take some time. And I understand when you've been told just win, baby, for 20 freaking years and you haven't won, your patience level is non existent. The other day, I'm in the car with Dexter, and for 2 hours, Daddy, yes. And I'd answer his question, Daddy, yes. And finally, we're like 40 minutes down the road, and it had, I don't even know, it had been multiple Daddy, 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 Daddy. Finally, I started to get frustrated, and I just thought to myself, you know what? The day's going to come when he doesn't want to talk to Daddy all the time. He doesn't want to ask Daddy, oh, Daddy, is that a squirrel? Yes. Daddy, is that a cactus? Yes. Daddy, no, I'm going to enjoy every minute. I took a deep breath. I turned and said, what do you want, buddy? I understood the patience of the process. He's two. Now, you see a player do something stupid, you should complain. See a coach do something stupid, you should complain. This is your team. It is not necessary for you to rip it apart. It's not necessary. Doesn't need to be that way. And I'm going to say this to you with all due respect. St. Louis Cardinal fans are considered the very best in Major League Baseball. Are they bigger than the league like the Yankees? No. But they are considered a legacy team. I mean, an LSC, but the best fans in baseball. If you go to Nebraska for a football game and you make a great play and you're the opposing team, the Nebraska fans will actually applaud for you because they love football. If you go to an Indiana Hoosier basketball game, and I've been to IU in Bloomington probably 25 times for games, and you're an opposing team and you're a great player and you get introduced, they applaud for you. They don't boo you because they love basketball. They love baseball. They love football at their respective places. They understand the game. There's no fan base in the NFL that understands the game of football better than Raider fans. That's why when they see bad football, they get so angry. I get it. They're angry about it. They're mad about it. I understand that. But you don't have to destroy your own. This is going to take some patience. There's a lot of young players going to make a lot of young mistakes. It's part of life. That's why there have been some coaches in the NFL that will trade draft picks and not care. They'd rather hire veterans. They don't want the problems that come with rookies. But the most successful teams understand they have to develop young players. When you understand, okay, it would take a miracle of God for this team to get to a Super Bowl. So I'm going to judge this year on progress, development of players. Does Tyree Wilson look different at the end of the year than he did at the beginning? Is Ashton Jeanty better at the end of the year than he was at the beginning? Is DJ Delmar Glaze, the mule, better at the end than he was at the beginning? Is Jackson Powers Johnson? Is Brock Bowers, Jack Bech, Dante Thornton? I mean, need I continue? Are the coaching decisions better? If I had to give a word of caution, it's the expectations this year are not a Super Bowl. So enjoy this year, allow the process to gain its footing. I'm going to tell you this quick story. I believe in the principle of seed time and harvest as long as the earth remains. And if I grew up in the Midwest where we plant a lot of corn. So when you go out and plant your corn, your goal is that your corn will be knee high by July. Meaning when you walk out on 4th of July and walk through your cornfields, you want your corn stalks to be as high as your knee high by July. If your corn is knee high by July, you know you're going to have good corn. So you go out there and you plant your corn in April. And you go out the next day and you're like, oh man, this isn't 6 or 7 foot tall. I'm ripping this corn out. You never get it a chance to grow roots. And then you never get it a chance to grow fruit. And I know that corn is not a fruit, but the corn cob is the fruit of the stalk. Let your franchise get some roots. Pete Carroll's going to take you back to your identity. Let it build. It's my word of caution to Raider Nation. See you tomorrow, everybody.